You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, episode number 90.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
So, hey everyone. Welcome to the podcast this week and happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Marchelle. How are you?
Good. Hey, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Yay. So tomorrow's Thanksgiving. So I thought it would be a good idea to give you some tips for how to have a happy Thanksgiving and not gain weight. And I have 8 tips today. And Marchelle, you're welcome to add any on to the end that I might not have thought of, okay?
Sure. Thank you. I know
Okay.
This is one of those holidays that really get me because it tends to be all about the food. And then there's family stress. You know, we all know that this holiday is one of those holidays where we just try to maintain our weight.
Exactly. All right. So here is my first tip. You ready? We have been talking a lot recently on the podcast about the importance of planning ahead. And this is one of those times where you're going to want to make a plan ahead of time. Okay. So it has really come to like a deep awareness within me how important it is to plan everything in advance. Like I talk about the 24-hour plan for food. I talk about, doing some planning for the week. But this is one of those times where you want to have a really good plan for Thanksgiving as well. So think about if you're going someplace or if you're going to have Thanksgiving at your place. Think about all of this and think about what types of foods are going to be served. If you're the one hosting, you have a little bit more control, but make a decision ahead of time about what you're going to eat. The turkey is going to be a pretty safe bet, but what about everything else? Are you going to have some of the marshmallow sweet potato stuff? Are you going to have any stuffing? What about appetizers? What about the pie? And so I see 3 ways to approach this, and all of them are right. None of them are wrong. The most important thing is that you've figured it out ahead of time.
You guys, what she says about the planning, I just got to break in really quick. Whenever, because I was just thinking, whenever I have gone off the rails or gone off track, whatever, whether it be big, whether it be small, it was because I didn't plan. It's always brought me back to that. So when we talk about plan, this is a big deal. Mm-hmm. So for everybody in the back, listen up because she's going to say something really important here.
Yeah. Well, most of us just sort of move through our lives and we're just reacting to everything around us. And so it's really important if you want to lose weight and keep it off that you stop that behavior, that you're not reacting to everything around you. And so that goes for Thanksgiving too. So here are the 3 potential things that you could do. The first is to just say, I'm going to have a splurge meal. I'm going to eat everything I want to eat. I'm not going to worry about it. I really want to have a wonderful Thanksgiving splurge. Now, if you do that, of course, remember that you're going to feel pretty uncomfortable afterwards and you might have some cravings the next day. So you want to plan ahead for that. So how are you going to manage that in the days that follow if you do have a splurge meal? So that's one option. And I have done that option in the past. And so I do know what I mean when I say you're going to feel kind of icky, especially if you haven't been eating a bunch of carbs and you suddenly eat a bunch of carbs. Your body's going to respond to that. So just be aware, and you might, depending on how sensitive you are to sugar and flour products, you might have some massive cravings too. So you're going to want to make sure that all the splurge foods are not near you in the days following your splurge.
Throw them away.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't even keep or don't take them. If you go to somebody else's house, just say thanks, but no thanks. Do not take them because if you have them, you're going to eat them.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so that's approach number 1. Approach number 2 is to have a moderate splurge. So you pick a few things that you really enjoy that are kind of special Thanksgiving treats for you, that have wonderful memories for you. Just pick a few things and plan it ahead and plan how much of it you're going to have. So you have a splurge.
I like this
but
idea.
It's a moderate splurge. Yeah. And again, you have to remember, if you have a sensitive brain like I do, you might have some cravings in the next few days. And so, again, make sure you don't have anything around you that you can get into in the next few days. The last and final approach is to treat Thanksgiving like you'd treat any other day. And you eat your protein and your vegetables, and you're very careful with your carbs, and you avoid the desserts. Okay? So that's another option as well, which is a perfectly valid and wonderful option. And depending on how sensitive your brain is, I mean, if you have a really sensitive brain, you might consider the third option and just say, you know what, I'm just going to go to Thanksgiving and I'm not going to focus on the food at all. I'm going to focus on the people that I'm with, and I'm just going to eat protein and vegetables and call it good.
Yeah, I like the previous option, but the more safe option for me is going to be the option that you just talked about, because I personally have an extremely sensitive brain to, I mean, we all know that. We've talked about it a million times. But I have a really, really sensitive brain. And I just am sick of going through the cravings for the next 2 weeks. And
I know.
It's just hell for me. So I think that I'm going to make sure that I really plan ahead. I'm going to bring something healthy. And then, I won't have to deal with, the suffering afterwards. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
Well, I think any of these three options is fine, as long as you've planned it in advance and you have a sense of how your brain and body are going to respond, and you can prepare for it ahead of time. For me, I don't like to feel stuffed and full. I hate that feeling. So I'm probably going to stay away from carbs and sugar, and I'm going to eat turkey and vegetables. But my splurge would likely maybe be a little bit of stuffing and maybe a bite of pumpkin pie, and I'll probably call it good with that. Okay, so that's my plan. But you choose whatever plan would work best for you, depending on where you are at in your journey. Okay, that's tip number one. Anything else that you want to say about tip number one, Marchelle?
No, it sounds good. I think we covered everything.
All right. Tip number two, if you're going somewhere, bring something delicious but healthy. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be staying with a friend in Arizona for Thanksgiving, and I'm making a yellow squash dish that I absolutely love. It's got basil in it. It's got some bacon in it. It's a wonderful treat.
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
It sounds really good, doesn't it? It is awesome. So
you might have to post the recipe for that. I don't know. It sounds really good.
Okay, maybe I will. So you could do that. Another idea might be to bring a healthy appetizer or a salad or some sort of green vegetable dish like green beans and mushrooms, something like that. There are a lot of healthy, delicious, and special recipes you can try for Thanksgiving. And I actually love to experiment in the kitchen when I have the chance. So that would be an option too, is to bring something, delicious but healthy if you're going someplace else. So then you're safe. Okay? So that's tip number two. Tip number three is to make sure that you don't skip breakfast.
Oh my gosh, how many of us do this? We skip breakfast so we can be starving by the time or plus we're so busy with the turkey and, just like hit the ground running. And you get to 2:00 and you're like, I haven't drank any water. I haven't eaten a thing. I'm starving now. So this is where the serious planning comes in is like, don't get caught off guard. Yeah.
Exactly. I remember going to Weight Watchers meetings in the old days, and they would say, you have a certain number of points. And if you have a special meal coming up, just don't eat all day and save your points for your splurge meal. And I'm just like,
that's the worst advice ever.
It's awful advice. So don't do that.
You don't want to make choices when you're starving.
No.
You never make good choices when you're starving. I don't care what anyone says. You don't.
Exactly. Yeah. So make sure that you eat your breakfast and have a good protein breakfast. Just like you always do, good protein breakfast. And then you can have your turkey dinner and you will be able to be reasonable about it. So that's tip number three. Tip number four has to do with alcohol. So be super careful with alcohol. It's really easy to overeat after a few drinks. So the other thing is the eggnog. So I've been seeing eggnog all over the place, and that's out there. And especially if it's spiked with alcohol, you get this sort of really dangerous combination of creamy, sugary stuff with alcohol in it. And that's just got tons of calories. And it's just going to set you off to just really eat a bunch of unplanned stuff. So I'm telling you from my own experience, just be careful with that stuff. And don't accept it just because someone is offering it to you. Be super careful with wine, more than 2 drinks. And what's going to happen is your prefrontal cortex, which is your brain that's done all the planning, gets totally turned off. And so then you're at the mercy of your primitive brain, which is just going to see food and eat it. So
yep, that's exactly what I used to do. Thank goodness I don't drink anymore. But when I did, that's what I would do. I would drink and I would graze, and I would drink and I would graze. And now, because I would think I was just snacking, but then you look back on it and you're like, oh my gosh, like what did I just do? And then you feel like crap the next day. And so, that's not going to be me this year. I hope it's not any of you either.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is, when you're grazing like that, if you were to put everything that you ate on a plate,
right,
and look at it,
so much,
you'd be shocked at how much food we eat when we're just sort of snacky grazing like that. So that might be a tip that I could add on later, but I'll just say it right now. And that is put all your food on a plate. Like, don't just graze. Right?
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, just put all your food on a plate so that you can see how much you're eating.
I really like that you said that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Tip number 5, don't forget to exercise. So I always say for people who are just getting started with a new eating plan and just trying to get healthy, you don't have to worry about exercise until you're 3 or 4 months in and your new food plan is pretty well dialed in and you're not having to think so much anymore all the time. But if you're somebody who's been a regular exercise, Thanksgiving is not the time to stop exercising, okay? So don't use the holiday, don't use gym closures as an excuse to stop exercising. It's really important to keep up your usual exercise routine, especially during stressful times. And I consider the holidays to be stressful, even if it's a happy kind of stress. Many people, it's not a happy kind of stress. It's a sad or lonely kind of stress. So remember to keep up your exercise. And I just thought of something, and that is some people who are regular exercise will use exercise and as an excuse to eat more. So they'll be like, well, I'll just exercise an extra 30 minutes so that I can have an extra piece of pie or whatever it might be.
No, I can totally relate to this kind of thinking.
I know. It's the whole calories in, calories out thing. I recommend against that kind of thinking because we all know now it's not about calories, it's about insulin, and you're not going to be able to out-eat insulin or out-exercise insulin. So you can't out-exercise a bad diet, but keep up with the exercise because your body needs it, your brain needs it. It's awesome. Another possibility is to start a new family exercise tradition, like an activity tradition. So did you ever watch This Is Us? Have you ever watched that show?
Yeah.
Do you remember their Thanksgiving episode where they had a tradition of walking a certain number of miles on Thanksgiving Day? And it was a very specific 3.3 miles, or I can't remember exactly what the miles were, but it was a very specific number of miles that they had this tradition of walking. And the story behind it was that one year when the kids were little, they were on their way to grandma's house and the car broke down and they had to walk a certain number of miles. And so after that, they just had a tradition that they would walk that many miles on Thanksgiving Day, which I thought was
really
kind of sweet.
Yeah, I forgot about that episode. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I remember thinking at the time, like, it doesn't really matter how it got started, but that's a pretty awesome family tradition. So you could consider starting something like that. And that way, everybody will get in on the exercise idea for Thanksgiving.
I love that going for a walk thing. That's really, really good.
Yeah. And you can't use the weather as an excuse.
I'm going to have to bring that up to my family.
Yeah. So, Thanksgiving is not always the greatest weather. Sometimes it can snow, depending on what part of the country you're in, or it can be rainy and icky here in the Pacific Northwest. So just bundle up. Don't use the weather as an excuse. So I remember hearing a clerk at REI say, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad gear.
Yeah, for sure. There you go.
There you go.
REI, a little plug for REI
yeah,
there.
Yeah, really. I don't get any
You're
kickback
welcome,
from REI. I know, really. All right. So that was tip number 5. Get your exercise. Tip number 6. This is a really, really good one. The night before Thanksgiving, which is tonight, or tomorrow morning, make a list of the people in your life that you appreciate. And don't just write their names, write down what you appreciate and why you appreciate them. Okay? And then make a list of all of the aspects of your life that you appreciate. So this is what this holiday is all about, right? Appreciation for all of the gifts that we have, that most of us take for granted on a daily basis. And the interesting thing is that this is a really life-giving thing to do. And it will really help you to come to the gathering in the right state of mind for a wonderful, life-giving time. It's hard to be stressed when you're filled with gratitude and appreciation. So think about it like that. Like you can be stressed or you can be appreciative, but you can't be both at the same time. So focus on being appreciative and keep this list handy and perhaps write it in a note on your cell phone even so that you've got it ready. So because this leads into tip number 7, which is if you're having a hard time with temptations, excuse yourself, go to the restroom, and read over your list of the people and the things that you appreciate. Okay? Did you know, Marchelle, that practicing gratitude helps replenish our stores of willpower?
This is really cool. I sort of knew this, but I mean, you saying it in this way is
research shows.
It's a really cool way of bringing it up. Yeah, I like
this is based in research. So we really don't have a lot of willpower. They're saying like maybe 15 minutes of willpower at the most. And just making decisions depletes willpower.
15 minutes is a lie.
Not for me.
I don't even have that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, what you're saying.
Sometimes I do. I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But 15 minutes seems like a lot in situations where, I mean, like you have all these temptations of food. If I get through 15 minutes of willpower and before when I'm making my plate, I'm doing good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anytime you're making decisions, that depletes willpower. So all you have to do is go through your email and decide which emails to open and which emails to not open, and your willpower is depleted before you know it. So anytime that you're having a hard time with temptations, just excuse yourself, go to the restroom, and read through the list of things that you wrote down, of people you appreciate, things about your life that you appreciate. And that will help to replenish your willpower, because being in that energy of appreciation, you just don't need food to make you feel better. I mean, it's such an awesome place to be, right? So don't hesitate to excuse yourself if you need to. Does that make sense?
Yes. Sounds great.
All right. Okay. So tip number 8, whatever happens, decide not to beat yourself up the next day if you overindulge. Just make that decision.
I want you to say this one more time.
Yes.
Because this is important.
Yes. Whatever happens, decide not to beat yourself up the next day if you happen to overindulge. Yes.
Right.
So if you don't follow your plan, don't beat yourself up. Okay? It's simply not that big of a deal.
It is not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. Just get rid of all the leftover pie and the bread and get right back on track with your normal eating, and you're going to be just fine. Okay?
Yep.
So that is a huge, huge important piece of this is being very compassionate with yourself and making sure that we don't walk around beating ourselves up if we happen to overindulge on a holiday. And remember, you've planned ahead of time. If you're just going to go all out and splurge, you're not going to have any reason to beat yourself up. If you decided to have a few splurges and you had more than a few, just don't beat yourself up, okay? And if you plan to really stick with it and then something just really tempts you when your willpower was depleted for whatever reason, you just don't worry about it.
It's really not that big of a deal, like she said. And you just keep on going. You don't give up.
Yeah. Just don't give up.
Just like I say, make the next right meal. You make the next right move. It's fine. You just move it along.
Yep. Just make the next right choice. Yeah. Okay. So those are my 8 tips. And I added one in there too. And now I forgot which one I added. But I think it had to do with the alcohol thing. But at any rate, did you have any thoughts, Marchelle, that I missed?
Well, since I'm not going to see you for Thanksgiving, I just wanted to take the time to tell you how much I appreciate you.
Oh,
and I'm so
thank you.
thankful for our relationship, our work relationship, our friendship. And I have to tell you, I don't know if I told you this yet, but so November is my 5-year anniversary with you.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't believe that. 5 years?
I have to say something. I have to admit this. This is the longest job I've ever kept in my whole life because I'm like really ADHD with stuff. I typically get bored with things at about 3 years. And this job is it's been so interesting and so fulfilling, and you've changed my life. I mean, like in so many ways. And I just am so grateful and thankful for our relationship. Like I said, both work and outside of work and, and all the stuff in between. And just thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. I can't even believe it's been 5 years. I'm just like bowled over. I can't even believe it.
5 years.
It's gone so fast. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I can't imagine having a better person to do the podcast with and to work with in the clinic. Like, you are just so awesome.
Gosh,
Remember when you first interviewed and
I do.
For the position, and you said, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. The time's this too early for me. And I sent you an email back. I talk about
this so much to our patients. when they're like on the fence about something that they're going to, that they need to do should be really good for them, I tell them that story. I'm like, go with your gut, like listen to your gut, because I had all these reasons, the hours weren't right for me or the days weren't. I just was like making up all these reasons, why I didn't want to go back to work. I was coming out of really a hard place. We had a lot of deaths in the family that year, and my husband and I were just wiped out. And I just didn't know if I could do it, go back, because I was still grieving. And that God has a plan. I know it because this has been such a blessing in my life. It has shaped my life. It has healed my life. I could tell you so many different ways, but I'm not going to bore everybody with the details. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And, I will never forget because just for our podcast listeners, she sent me an email, and the email said, it's too early. I've got stuff to do in the morning, take care of my family. Yeah. And I sent her back an email and I said, I want you to rethink this. I didn't take no for an answer.
She did. And I couldn't sleep that night.
I did. I said,
I couldn't sleep.
I said, I want you to rethink this. I want you to talk to your family because I think that this would be a really, really perfect fit. And I was right, so.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like I said, I just, I couldn't sleep that night. Something inside of me was like, you made the wrong decision. You should have taken this job. And then I called her, or did I email you or call you the next day? And I was like, is the position still open? Sign me up, please. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And did I think that it was going to be like this? It's been such an amazing ride. And it's like I said, it's just changed my life in so many ways, on so many levels. Yeah. I know that this was a gift from God to me.
Yeah.
And I hope that gift I can spill out onto other people, which I try to do. Yeah. And, and I just appreciate this job so much and appreciate you and just everybody I work with. Our team, we have like the best team too.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah. Just in all ways in all ways for empowered weight loss, for our clinic, So it's a time to be grateful and thankful. And I truly am. Yeah.
And I am super grateful for you too. And I'm really glad you said yes 5 years ago.
Yay. Me too.
Where would we be without you?
Oh my gosh. And where would I be without you guys? You, especially.
All right. Well, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Really, really focus on the joy of the people that are in your life, and try not to focus too much on the food. Enjoy the food, but don't over-focus on the food. And have a wonderful time. And we will see you all next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Goodbye.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.